Time now for the news review. Thank you for, allowing us to come into your homes or on your gadgets, whichever way you're watching us this morning. We're joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political science lecturer. He also is head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. But before I get to him, a very simple exercise, acknowledging the sponsor, allowing us to bring you the segment every weekday morning. It is Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, free prostate screening. If you're a woman, free fertility screening. And if you'd like to locate them, just go, if you're in Accra, to Spintex, that is around the Shell sign board. Then Kumasi Kronoma Boyhian behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hansua, and Esiama Enzima. Their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But only the start of the news review as we host Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Doc, good morning. Welcome aboard.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you on the screen.
Well, let's start from the very start as we get into some of the latest stories. But always, I'd like to find out from you, what has the last week been like for you? The issues we've had to discuss, among others, from the economy to Frimpong Boateng's Galamsey saga. What is your take, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante?
I'll look at the Galamsey issue. Ben, it's becoming a worrying situation. You have expressed concern about it time and again. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We are struggling to fix our economy, and we are compounding the problem by adding something that we could easily avoid by enforcing the laws rigidly, irrespective of those who are involved, and getting things done in the way and manner that will help this country. We are destroying the ecosystem, particularly water bodies, land for agriculture, aquatic life, and more importantly, we are also creating enmity amongst ourselves relative to our neighbors. We destroy water here, and they find their way in neighboring country, and that water cannot be used for anything meaningful. Obviously, recipient of such fresh water will complain. And is that what we want to have? We have written in our constitution, particularly the preamble, that we will live at peace with all peoples of the world, including our neighbors. Why are we doing this thing to ourselves and creating a problem that is affecting our neighbors? Not only neighbors, ourselves here. We are destroying agriculture. This country's mainstay is agriculture. Now people are cutting down cocoa trees in search for gold in the soil. People are destroying water bodies to destroy aquatic life, just to look for what? Minerals and the rest of them. And we have a government that we have given our sovereign will to, that govern on our behalf, manage our resources, and if you are able to protect our rights, our livelihoods, we'll give you obedience. And as if our government is on holiday. If you look at the stories, the Professor Frimpong Boateng's explosive report that he has churned out, one would have asked whether that information was worth considering by the government. But if you look at the response of government, it seems as if that it was the professor's own business writing something like an ordinary document to them. But my question to government is that, was it a love letter that Professor Boateng sent to government? Even you are the recipient of that letter, if you consider it to be a love letter for purposes of conversation, all right, won't you read the content? And if the content is worth its salt, won't you analyze, use it for something meaningful? More importantly, when this document is coming from somebody you have tasked to head a place and or head a program that is going on and is writing something to you, I am disappointed in government that they don't look at these things in much detail. All right, I would have thought that the government would study it and trigger some investigation And you consider that all the things he said are allegations. But what is important is that government will trigger investigation into them and then find the confirm what is there or deny what is there. That is the work of every meaningful government. But what I have seen is nothing but a sorry story. It seems as if that we are not ready to fight this fight. And the earlier we did something about this, the better to save the ecosystem and save our livelihoods. If we want to pay lip service to this, I'm afraid a time will come, it will come and hit us more harder than we are experiencing now. And the pain, we will not be able to deal with it. Ghana, we need to set up. MPP, rise up. I'm not sure that's the legacy that Nana Akufo-Addo want to leave for the people of this country. That during his time, water bodies were destroyed with alacrity, and that the government was very insensitive. I'm not sure this is the legacy Nana want to leave.
Don't you find it shocking? Don't you find it shocking that the same president who said he would put his very presidency on the line in combating illegal mining is superintending over what we're seeing? I mean, don't you find it ironic that someone would say that his cousin, Gabi Asare-Ochodako, would then go on to say that the posterity would not forgive this administration, the Akufo-Addo administration, if it fails in the fight against Galamsey? That we are 7 years into this administration, because mind you, he said this in 2017. And we're in 2023, just a year plus away from election year, and this is where we find ourselves. In fact, just to paint a better picture, and it's always good, we work together. So I'm going to quote what my own big brother, my good friend, Kafui Day, who is on GTV or GBC, he put a few things out there yesterday, and I'll share some of them with you. Our own Erastus Asare-Donko, among others, have been doing a fantastic job. He's also been doing that. Last year, so he posted something on Twitter. The River Pra in bottles, 7 months apart, okay? And you can just, check it out. September 2022, April 2023. I'll try to see whether we can, if it's possible, to display these images. But if you look at them, one looks like carrot juice, okay? A bit lighter. 7 months apart. The next one looks more like severely muddy water. You get the difference. I know it's difficult painting the picture. Then he says people living along the Pra River have started buying water to wash, cook, and drink. Those are the ones who can afford it. Think about it. Now, they have to purchase water, those who may have used other systems. There are local ecosystems when it comes to water. And then listening to Dr. Odrosai on that program, he says, we should be brutal and harsh about Galamsey, like the Arab world deals with cocaine and other illicit drug trafficking. I found this very apt. There are places that are no-go areas. If you're thinking of narcotics and all of that, the likes of Malaysia, Thailand, and if they apprehend you, you're in big trouble, regardless of where you're from. You'll be put in the can. Maybe, just maybe, that is how ferocious we should be, because we're destroying everything. Yeah. Humanity is destroying everything. Reminds me of the lyrics in that song, Sabali, Nas, and I think Damian Marley. We're destroying everything. And the very people at the helm are the ones engaged in this. So where do we go from here? In fact, that's the post by Kafui Day. And just look at the difference between the water. 7 months apart. Sure. 7 months apart. Look at that. And we say we are fighting Galamsey.
No.
We need to fight hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of leadership. That is what we need to fight. We're not fighting Galamsey. Yeah. We're not. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit passionate about this issue, but
You should. Ben, I share in your pain. I also have a very painful experience looking at all these things. We don't need water with any of such colors that is before me. We don't need any of them. Water is colorless. I mean, that's a simple, chemistry that we study. Water is colorless. So what are we seeing there? It's something that is either a toxic material or something else, but it's not water. Certainly so. If you look at definition of water and all its properties in chemistry, this is not. And imagine you are putting this thing into your system. What effect do you expect? Do you have the resources to deal with health challenges when you consume things of this nature? Yes, I agree with you. The hypocrisy of government, I have said it many times, if you look at the networks and all that, that the government is not ready to fight this type of canker in our society. What we need to do as a society is that we need to continue the crusade, the advocacy, and then we force political parties to put in their manifesto.
Right.
All right. That is one of the contracts. So when you come to power and then we check your performance against what is in the manifesto, then we know whether to give you a mandate or not. For the citizenry, this is all that we can do. Advocacy and all that. Let us remember that right to prosecute and all that is in the hands of the government. But if the government doesn't want to do our little bit, we'll not throw it away. We'll force it into the manifesto. Political parties this election must come and tell us their plan to dealing with what Galamsey, whether it's effective or not. Then we are able to know who to give our mandate to. But MPP should know that if this is the legacy they want to leave in the area of the ecosystem, then I'm afraid it's going to be a high cost for them. The earlier they did something about this, the better. And they should not pretend to be fighting this. They should fight it head on, nothing more, nothing less.
Doc, just a quick one, very quickly, so we get into the papers. On the back of what Mr. President said, 6-7 years on, do you still trust him to be able to deal with Galamsey?
Oh, no. It's not only the statement. The president has said a number of things, i.e., Accra will be the cleanest city in Africa. We have seen this. And is that what we've seen? No. But I know from where I sit, from Donovan and Co., that politics deals with lies, deceit, and manipulation. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We as electorates must reason very fast so that when it comes to renewal of mandate or giving our mandate, we know what to do. Because we can't trust the word of government, I'm afraid to say that. But we have a lot of evidence to support this position.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Lifeline for non-professional teachers, NTC, to issue emergency license. Their special supplement on Otumfuo's 24th coronation anniversary. And yesterday, he was taken on by one of my guests, Elizabeth Va, on this very issue of Galamsey, that the chiefs ought to do better, that they have a lot, wide powers that they can also use. And then we know that some chiefs are mired in Galamsey. In fact, in one of those addresses last year, Otumfuo himself made mention of how he was fully aware that some of his chiefs were mired in some of these circumstances. Well, some civil society groupings, Elizabeth Va of that environmental advocacy group, is calling on him and his maybe paramount chiefs across the country, to do more in terms of the fight against Galamsey. Probe illegal mining allegations against appointees, NDC to Parliament, and that's a story we're doing today as one of our big stories. I'll get into that. 22% of wage bill in wrong pockets. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission says so. So I'm going to focus on those two stories, this one and the one on page 17. Now, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has disclosed that preliminary monitoring reports on 58 institutions have it estimated that about 22% of their wage bill is unearned salaries. Unearned. This development emerged from an ongoing nationwide payroll monitoring exercise to expunge existing anomalies and fraud in the public sector payroll. The exercise is to save the country an estimated 10 billion Ghana cedis annually from unearned salaries. So that is how much we lose. 10 billion Ghana cedis. If we had that, we probably wouldn't need an IMF bailout. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission disclosed this at a consultative meeting with chief directors, coordinating directors, and human resource officers at the various outfits under the civil and local government services on the exercise. Of course, pictured there, Benjamin Arthur, chief executive officer. Now, I'm so interested in this story because that means a little over 1/5 of our wage bill goes into the wrong pockets. and earned salaries. Last year, we were talking about different institutions from the Auditor General's report, different institutions doing same, including the Finance Ministry, where there were at least 3 people who didn't even work. They were not on the Finance Ministry's payroll, yet they had been getting salaries for years. And I was, if I recall correctly, if memory serves, I think one was earning about 10,000, another over 10,000, another up to about 20,000 cedis. Imagine that. Then we were told at a point in time that these people had been located and there had been some sort of return or something of the sort. What penalties did these people face? We don't even know. That is our reality. Your reactions?
Institutions are down, simply put. If we have strong institutions that work, all right, they will eliminate all these things because we have set institutions, the rules, the regulations to guide the conduct, because we believe that for human society, there is the likelihood for these things to emerge in every society. So what you do is that you fix them by having rules that will regulate the conduct of people,
right?
So that they don't cross the line. What are we seeing here? Right? We always glorify some of these things by our actions, whether tacit or otherwise. Because I don't see why the audit sections of, and remember that if you look at all the public institutions, they have auditors going around to check the processes. So Is it the case that the auditors are not working? Is it the case that those who pay them, they don't know the people they pay? Is it the case that we are paying ghosts? We are paying ghosts. I recall when President Kufuor was in office, Mr. Yaosafo spent all his time removing ghost names from the government payroll. And one would have thought that that would end the whole story. Today, we are hearing a different thing. It means that we are not doing the monitoring as we're supposed to do, and we are not ensuring that institutions work. If we want to right this wrong, we need to enforce the institutions rigidly, let them work, and then apply the necessary sanctions where the need arises. But if we want to run away from this, I'm afraid we'll come back, lament over it, and another time the matter rear its ugly heads one more time, and the consequence is there for us to see. We need to be serious as a country, and there is no time for us. Every time we are hot, financial bailout, we go to IMF World Bank. A time will come that nobody will look at your face because they know that yours is nothing but mismanagement. I'm sure that as we are going forward, as the World Bank, IMF, they are experiencing the downturn of economies, and then the role that managers of economy they play in sending countries there. A time will come, they will tighten the noose around all of us. And if we don't take care, we can't survive. And can't see why we can't deal with this. 10 billion Ghana cedis slip through our fingers. GII, Ghana Integrity Initiative, has told us $3 billion slipped through our fingers through corruption.
In fact, according to the Finance Ministry itself, I recall the Finance Minister saying that just over about between 4 and 6 billion. I mean, the figures vary, but imagine that about 6 billion is lost every year. And then you add this that we're losing as far as wages are concerned, another 10 billion. We probably would have no business going to the IMF, but because of sloppiness, we're here.
Ben, you even end there. Look at the financial waste that are captured in the Auditor's General report. If you add all to this, is it not the case that we don't need IMF? Prudence is missing in the economic affairs of this country. And if government don't have the needed resources or the knowledge, they need to go for tutorial as well and stop wasting our time.
Well, let's get into the next batch of stories as we get ready to wrap with the Daily Graphic. So there is probe illegal mining allegations against the appointees NDC to Parliament, and the NDC has called on Parliament to, as a matter of urgency, investigate all individuals, including government appointees cited in the Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng report on the activities of illegal mining in the country. The party, led by its National Communications Officer, Sami Jemfi, said the probe was necessary to unearth the truth contained in the report to help sanitize the mining sector and protect the country's natural resources. The party also called on Parliament to probe the money laundering allegations contained in that Al Jazeera investigative report. It has also called on the special prosecutor to investigate and prosecute all persons found culpable in the two reports. I find it interesting because they are talking about, a probe, even the parliamentary probe that will be open to the public, that will be televised and all of that, which is a good thing. I don't see them, or at least I've not heard them, because the report by Professor Frimpong Boateng also mentions at least one person from the NDC. It cites, I think, in the Western region or so, a district executive who also was mired in Galamsey. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Whether there are 100 people on this government side and maybe 1 or 2 on the opposition side, everybody has to be dealt with in the same manner to sanitize the system. But there's this story I saw that I wanted to just top up on so we can wrap with the Daily Graphic. Underage girls vulnerable to cervical cancer. I believe there is some sort of vaccine. I hear it's very painful, but of course it's efficacious. In other parts of the world, it is available. I don't know about Ghana, but about 2,797 women, including girls, are diagnosed with cervical cancer in Ghana every year, out of which 1,699 die. That is quite a huge number. Now, girls as young as 10 years are vulnerable to the disease, which is spreading at an alarming rate nowadays. And why wouldn't it? With how we are polluting our water bodies and all of that, who knows what the effects are of these chemicals? Because the food you are consuming comes from the hinterlands. A lot of the hinterlands are getting polluted by Galamsey. So cyanide, mercury, and everything in between. God knows what these people are using. These are leaching into farms, leaching into farm products, and we end up consuming them thinking we are eating something good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it is increasing at an alarming rate nowadays. Some of them develop fast, start menstruating, and become sexually active at tender ages. Those are some of the effects of this. Anyway, quick reactions to those two.
I'll start with the cervical cancer problem. Anything that affects health affects productivity and general livelihood. So we need to be able to find lasting solution to this. And you rightly pointed out the way to go is to have vaccines. You recall last week we looked at the present effort to get Ghana being one of the vaccine producers in the sub-region. It's a good thing. I believe that Professor Boateng and his team will extend their vision towards some of these areas. Thank God that he is an expert in that area, so he knows what to do. So he will support us in this regard for us to get vaccines and deal with this. We can't be losing young, productive people at tender ages, and that will not bode well for a country that wants to really build human resource and build itself economically. I also support, and I support 100% the call by the NDC about the probe into these things. Normally, when reports of this nature are rating, you want to consider it as raw material for investigation because it's at this level, the allegations. And if you want to really get to the bottom, you probe into that so that you save, people who have not done wrong. And you also, those who have crossed the line, you mete out appropriate punishment for them. That enhances governance and builds into the system confidence. In a political system, the important thing is to be able to govern with honesty, and then you provide people with the right information. Once you do that, you energize the system and you get people to believe in the system. But if you turn a blind eye, things that affect society, and you continue to churn out information that is not correct, obviously a time will come nobody will take you serious, and that will not bode well for a democracy. Democracy, you require information, easy access to information, but information must be genuine and proper so that whoever needs to be saved, you save him. Whoever needs to be punished is punished.
On the back page of the Daily Graphic, Vice President inaugurates catheter lab for Kolebu Hospital, and Unichem Industries sets up pharmaceutical plant. Let's quickly get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Africa needs sustainable development-oriented people to transform continent. Adelaide Japan says so. Let's address growing insecurity in Gulf of Guinea maritime space. President to GGC leaders. Mr. President, let's also address insecurity in our country from the standpoint of Galamsey, because it is a huge security matter. It could lead to so many things, including opening the doors for insurgents, terrorists. Mr. President, let's address that one too. Bolgatanga to host maiden May Day parade. Native tree species in danger face extinction due to destruction of natural regeneration. And policeman in court for killing girlfriend at Idum. That's a story we've been doing for quite a while now. I'll quickly address those stories. Let's start from page 11 of the paper. Now, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, that is the CSIR, has appealed to the government to do everything possible to fight illegal gold mining, as it is posing a great danger to the natural regeneration of native tree species in the country. According to the Council, Udum mahogany, kukrodua, and other valuable native species that give the country timber are getting extinct significantly, partly due to illegal gold mining, popularly called galamsey, in the country. Though forests restore themselves, the country or the council has observed that the activities of illegal gold miners are destroying the natural regeneration of the native trees, making the restoration of degraded ecosystems with such species a difficulty. Here we are, back again. It is galamsey. Galamsey here, galamsey there, galamsey everywhere. Mr. President, the piracy issue, I hear Ghana, our Gulf where we are, we're prone to that. It's one of the places where it is most rampant. But address galamsey because it's a major issue. Now, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has called on countries bordering the Gulf of Guinea to ensure enhanced cooperation in addressing the growing insecurity in the region's maritime space. He said criminality in the maritime domain of the Gulf of Guinea was a threat to the security and economic development of the region. Well, I have said already, Mr. President, there is an even greater issue that you have to deal with, and that has to do with galamsey. So, Mr. President, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wada, sorry. Your quick thoughts on these two matters.
Yeah. Security problems in Ghana. It's a danger to security everywhere. Everywhere. We need to fix Ghana and fix the rest of them. I am just not surprised that now you see the groups are talking. Center for Scientific and Industrial Research talking. Civil society have started talking long time. Media. It tells you that we are not doing something right relative to the fight against galamsey. Why can't we deal with this problem once and for all? It can be fixed. We are making it as if that is a difficult one, but it is not. It's simply because government doesn't want to listen to these calls. But it will come to bite all of us. I'm not a doomsayer, no. But from where I sit and from the turn of events, if we don't handle these things very well, we are going to pay so dearly. Look at the world. European countries, some of them have started experiencing less snow, which is a worry to them. Some have started experiencing more snow.
Right.
Heavy sunshine in other parts.
In fact, this winter season was one of the most severe ones in different parts of the world. And we should be asking ourselves why. Nowadays, it rains when it's not supposed to, and there's a lot of sunshine when sometimes you don't expect it.
Yes. So the least we want to do is to, worsen the situation, the already volatile situation. This galamsey business must cease. But we as a society must be vigilant and then ensure that politicians will be forced to do the needful. That is the only way out. And one thing is that let us enforce the law, let us also put in the manifesto, and let us hold people to account. That anybody who is caught in this area, we also make sure that the person is not spared. I want to look at the issue of maritime space and insecurity and all that. It dovetails into the conversation we're having about galamsey and all that. And whenever there is insecurity in the maritime space, it's a threat to countries that find themselves in that enclave.
Right.
And let us remember also that That space is important for a lot of what activities, more importantly, commercial activities and the rest of them. So if there is insecurity there, then countries are going to suffer. So solve the one which is in your country as well as the one outside your country. Then you are in serious business. Otherwise, I would want to consider it as one of the exercises that we will just talk about them, but we will not do much. But there is a price to pay when you are governing, and there are problems you don't want to fix. You will fix at a huge cost, and that time you have unfortunately, it will come at a time that you don't have resources.
I just saw something on JoyNews on Facebook. You can also check it out, all of you out there. It's from, just a reminder, it's from Charles Bessu. You remember him. He was with the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, the secretary, and we all know that expose and what happened to him. He was speaking to my colleague Evans Mensah, and guess what he says? The president's promise to put his presidency on the line was a figure of speech.
Okay.
Anyway.
If that is what he wants us to believe, governance is not just empty talk. You do the needful.
He's basically saying governance is English because he says what the president said was a figure of speech.
Let him consider it as such. But the time of accountability is so close. 2024 is here with us.
Right. Let's wrap with these stories. Veep opens Kolebu Cath Lab. We've already expatiated on that. I killed Majwa over 5,000 Ghana cedis. Now, there are different reports on this. Some say it wasn't on the back of that, but others say it was. Inspector Ahmed Chumesi, he's now been apprehended by the police in that killing in Edum. No galamsey in a Kufuado backyard, says MPP. Richard Ahiangba, communication director of the MPP, has said so. And then 4 Ashaiman murder suspects freed. That story is on page 6. So the 4 Ashaiman murder suspects freed. We can just quickly get into that issue and also look at page 3 of the Ghanaian publisher, Africa Needs Development-Oriented People to Transform. So let's just look at this one. That story is on page 6, and then we leave. So, 4 accused persons standing trial in connection with the murder of Private Sheriff Imoro, the soldier who was gruesomely murdered at Taifa, a suburb of Ashaiman in the Greater Accra region, have been discharged by the Ashaiman Circuit Court. They were, however, re-arrested shortly after the court proceedings yesterday by personnel of the Cold Case Unit set up under the CID of the Ghana Police Service to assist in investigations. The 4 were charged with dishonestly receiving stolen goods at the last sitting. And the Ghanaian publisher on page 3, the Chief Executive Officer of American International School, Mrs. Adelaide A. Siao Ejapong, says Africa needs sustainable development-oriented people to transform the continent. You can get further details in the story. And I would go as far as saying we need sustainable development-oriented leaders to transform the continent. Your final take, Doc, as we wrap.
I will look at the sustainable development-oriented people. That is the best description you need. You need people whose vision go beyond their ethnic group. You need people whose vision go beyond their political parties. We need people who will be nothing but the political John the Baptist to see things ahead and then help us to deal with them. We need people who will look at all the resources God has given to us and turn them around. Make our society a better society. These are the people we need. And Ghana will forever miss Kwame Nkrumah. He had that. He lived way beyond his contemporaries. He looked at things far ahead and was able to build this country on that solid foundation that today we are looking at and destroying with amazing rapidity. That shouldn't happen to a country that we have struggled to build. That shouldn't happen to a country that our democracy was nothing to write home about, but we have developed it to the admiration of many. That shouldn't happen to a country that has all the resources that can make it a giant in the world. Look at Britain. What does it have in their soil? It's coal, and yet it's one of the richest countries in the world. We have everything, and yet poor. We need to reflect on these things. And then I'll urge the government to go and read Ali Mazuri's book, The African Condition. That we are the richest, yet the poorest. It shouldn't be. That paradox should cease now and now.
I love the way you ended. It also reminds me of 2 books, The White Man's Burden and The Black Man's Burden, by 2 different authors, yet interesting subject areas. If you're listening to us or watching us this morning and you've not read those books, you ought to. Maybe to add to that list, you might want to read The Trouble with Nigeria by Professor Chinua Achebe of blessed memory. But I proffer it because it's such a small book, but The Trouble with Nigeria, you can easily take Nigeria out and put Ghana there, and it will be completely the same. You can reflect on that book as well. Doc, thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning. We wish you the best of the day.
I am grateful for the opportunity. Always ready to serve my country.
God bless you. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He's also head of the Center for European Studies. As we segue into sports, of course, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helped us to bring you this segment. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaje State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Nzema. You can call them on these numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But the start of sports up next.